All right, the next bit of listener interaction we got was from a listener by the name of Konrad Dax, who has a very poignant question for us outcasts when this is actually a real person. Hi, everyone. I'm a semi-regular listener, and I'm a young atheist skeptic just trying to figure out how I fit in to help improve the craziness of the world right now. I'm writing about the efforts each of us can make to move our planet towards a sustainable future and what those efforts might include. And there's a paragraph I'm cutting out here because it's not pertinent to the question that we have here. So he says, I want to ask your opinion on something, outcasts. I'm trying to be part of the hashtag resistance by being part of the bipartisan U.S. House Climate Solutions Caucus, to which your very own Mia Love, Utah District 4, belongs. The Citizens Climate Lobby proposes a carbon fee and dividend that is a revenue neutral, at least they claim it is, but that's what I want your opinion on. Each household gets a share per adult back of the revenue from the carbon fee. The carbon fee starts at $15 per ton of CO2 emissions and goes up by $10 every year. What do you guys think of this? Would it affect you and your neighbors a lot or a little? Is it a regressive measure? I think it is one of the most Republican-friendly measures in the House right now, which is important because Mr. Trump and his people have a significant amount of power in D.C. right now. And he says, I ask this because living in SoCal makes my life experience somewhat limited, and I want to hear what other people have to say about this issue. I wish you all well, and I hope that everyone listening to Utah Outcast remembers to never give up and keep moving forward. Live long and prosper. Great comment, Konrad.
Oh, thank you so much. First of all, thank you. Much appreciate your comment. That was beautifully thought out and wonderfully detailed. And I want to say thank you for your activism and getting involved. It can be tough at times, and
yeah, good for you because
it's wonderful.
I don't have the the fortitude to go through with public stuff like that. That's why I podcast.
It's wonderful and what a wonderful cause to take on. Climate change, probably the greatest threat that we're facing right now. And because of people like you, I am confident that we are going to solve this problem through creative thinking and through activism and action and the combined efforts of the people who care. So that's the first thing. The thing that I'm thinking of is these carbon taxes. I find them to be a way to actually avoiding the issue. These are your offsets, your
caps and trade and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean they're helpful, but they're not really addressing the issue.
Yeah.
I can take ibuprofen if I have a bacterial infection in my throat. It's going to help me not feel as much in pain, but it's not going to treat the bacterial infection, right? And while these things are somewhat good, we need to be careful to not let them overpower the overall message that we need to change the way that we are addressing energy. And the good news is that sustainable energy is actually more economically viable than any other energy source we've ever used. Fossil fuels will run out. They're going to be harder and harder to find. They're going to become more and more expensive. Not only is this a global terrifying issue that we need to address, but economically right now, it's going to collapse. It is going to collapse, and it's going to collapse in our lifetime. And so
it's why I pulled all of my shares of like people like Vivint and stuff like that, because it's getting to be so cheap to do for solar that these companies that have been profiting off of, leasing stuff out to people for like 30 years on their house mortgage to have them have solar in their house, that's going to become a thing of the past. So you can go to Harbor Freight right now and buy solar panels and all sorts of other fucking gear you need to have so you can actually collect your own solar energy. It's getting dirt cheap. So anyway, Felicia, you're saying.
I was saying that it is important that we have encouragement for the citizenry to do carbon offsets or whatever, but I think that they're largely a band-aid and not terribly useful. This shouldn't be a big issue, and frankly, I think it could be skipped. I don't necessarily think it's inherently problematic, but it can lead to people saying, "Oh no, see, we fixed the problem," when they put a band-aid on a gaping wound.
Yeah,
and it's not going to work. Just like when I was an EMT, if you have a serious bleed, you can cover that shit with gauze and slow the bleeding, and you can get them stable. but they're still going to need stitches and a blood transfusion. All right. So it's fine to consider these ideas, but keep your eye on the ball. Focus on the actual situation. And the fact is that we need to be reducing our dependency on fossil fuels. And that's just a reality that we have to live with.
And the current natural gas trend is going to peak and then die off, because right now it's cheap as shit to get natural gas, and it's going to be that way for a long time. But the thing is, we have other fuel sources that are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper
and more
every fucking day.
effective.
Yeah. I mean, shit, when I was driving out to Vegas a couple weeks ago, there was a gigando fucking humongous like solar farm on the way out there. Like, it was like miles of solar panels and collectors collecting energy, probably for the Vegas grid, I would assume. But it's just a desert being repurposed to, you know, make renewable energy. And even every fucking casino, I mean, shit, every IKEA that you see nowadays has, like, the whole top of it is solar powered. Like, everything out there is solar panels. And it's self-sustained at that point, you know?
It just makes sense. It just makes sense. And there's so much energy that we use on this planet that we're not harnessing. Kinetic energy from walking, and heat energy from the summers, and just so much energy out there that we are not utilizing. And the reality is that our science is getting so good at innovating that perhaps in the Climate Change Caucus, you guys could talk about supporting innovation in renewables. And the reason that renewables are better is not just for climate change, which is a dramatic and very real, terrifying problem. But sometimes people, if you talk about the terror, they run. Talk about the benefits of renewables. There's so much out there. And we have the science and the infrastructure to develop these amazing energies out there that we're just not using.
And to answer your other question that you have out there about would it affect us and our neighbors a lot, I think everybody wants to do the right thing. Everybody wants to move to renewable energy. Everybody wants to do recycling. Fuck, I remember we had to fight to get recycling out here in this county.
We did.
Because they didn't want to do it. They're like, oh, it's not cost productive for us to do it. Be like, everybody's like, but we don't want this shit going to landfill. We want this to be recycled. And there's other countries out there where their recycling game is fucking on point, man. Like, it's amazing that
we're even getting better at recycling. We're even getting better at that.
Yeah, you guys in Salt Lake at least have the different bins that you have out there. Out here, we have just like the papers and plastics like in one container, and that's about it. You can't do glass. You can't do certain other things. But anyway,
Salt Lake has glass.
To get to the other part that you asked here, is it a regressive measure? The $15 per ton of CO2 emissions and up by 10 every year. Yes, it is regressive because it's going to affect the lowest income people the worst. It's going to hit, I mean, unless they have some sort of system in place where the people that have to burn wood to live through the winter, the people that have to use heating oil to live through the winter, and
we have those people here in Utah. Like, let's not, as particularly the elderly who have not had the ability to refurbish their homes. And that's actually a significant issue in our air quality is people are still relying on burning wood and that's still a thing. And our state will not subsidize updating these homes. And these people have no option. It's really quite horrific. But yes, those are the people that are going to be most harmed, is the people who most need this. And that's why we have to be careful with stuff like this.
Yeah, and so when you get those people that are ultimately super duper ultra fucking rich out there that have the McMansions or even just regular mansions out there, they're going to be able to do the whole Energy Stars thing. They're going to be able to get everything refurbished in a point where they're not going to be over on the certain amounts of CO2 every year, because it's not going to affect. They're going to be the ones driving the Teslas. They're going to be the ones that have the stuff out there, because the attacks on people, on anybody, affects the lowest of us first instead of the highest of us. And that's where we need to focus things on. We need to focus more on
innovation.
We need to focus on, I honestly want how Bernie said, we need to tax the top earners in this country a lot fucking more than we want to. I mean, not we want to, but you know what I mean. We have people that are even in the top 1%, like Warren Buffett saying, I'm not paying enough taxes, you know? So instead of jumping on the people living down the street, like I said, that are using pellet stoves, or they're using a cord of wood that they got the permission to go cut down from somebody's property out in Duchesne or something like that. Which, if you're in SoCal, so you have no idea what I'm talking about, Google it. It's very fucking sparse.
It is quite rural.
So what you have is people burning all this shit, and they have to do that because that's all they can afford to do. They have to borrow somebody's chainsaw to go get the cords of wood, where they have to split it up in the backyard still. I mean, there is still a lot of broke ass fucking people in this country, and taxing anybody is going to hit them a lot more than it's going to hit the people that are higher up on the spectrum. And
again, I my concern is that it hides the real issue, and it's almost it's not quite a God will fix it, but it is oh, see, look, we fixed it, and it's not addressing the underlying issue. And the reality is that we need better ways and better systems. Yep. And what we need to do is focus on the real issues. And we keep blaming the individuals for their carbon usage and telling them it's their responsibility when we are given no other options.
Yeah. Meanwhile, here in Utah, we have fucking oil refineries in the middle of towns that are contributing to all this shit. And they were here before the town sprung up. I understand that, but the thing
no. They're actually, because they are subject to federal regulations because the Obama years, thanks Obama.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah. They are actually contributing to air quality or far less than your average home. Oh, or not home, not literal home, but the homes in Utah are actually the major problem. Cars and homes are the worst. And the thing is, Utah in particular is resisting change.
My God,
and that's stupid. It's so stupid because the economy has already shifted towards renewables because it just makes more economic sense. If it's renewable, it's easier to obtain forever. But we need to invest more, not burden people. Not the individuals are not the problem. It's a systemic issue that we need to address.
Absolutely. So, Konrad, we hopefully that answers your questions for you. Thanks for being a fan. Thanks for reaching out to talk to us.
What a wonderful question.
It was a great question.
Wonderful, thoughtful question. Thank you so much.
I know.
I can't believe you asked us that. That was wonderful.
So instead of dick jokes, we had to be serious.
That was delightful. What a wonderful, intellectual, thought out. Oh, that was just neat. That was just neat. Thank you.
Thanks, Konrad.